Welcome to HAN Radio's Behind the News, the show where three veteran Connecticut news editors go behind the stories with the columnists, photographers, reporters, and editors who covered them. They will discuss not only Hersom Acorn stories, but take a look at the media landscape in Fairfield and Westchester counties. They will discuss it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. With John Kovach and Josh Fisher, here's your host, Kate Czaplinski.
Thanks, Rob. Well, it's Friday, August 21st. And I'm here with Josh Fisher today.
Hi, Kate.
Hi. Well, John Kovach is off today, Josh. But
yes,
we're going to be
he's out sunbathing today.
It's beautiful weather.
It's beautiful weather for sunbathing.
Well, we had a really, I thought, very interesting interview earlier this week about medical marijuana for children and that becoming potentially legalized in the state of Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And we spoke to some moms about that on coffee break, actually.
Yeah, they came in here, and it was a very, I was rather touched by it, what they're going through and what they're up against with the state that's not allowing them to treat their children. How other states are allowing parents with similar problems to treat their children.
Right, and we are going to replay that video in just a bit, and we also want to mention in it, some political discussion comes up about those who are opposed to it, including Tony Boucher, who is state senator now.
Tony Boucher's state senator for a while. I think almost 8 years
I was thinking
now.
state
She represents the 26th district, which includes Wilton, part of New Canaan, Bethel, Ridgefield, Reading, Weston, Westport. I think that's all of them.
Right, and you actually did reach out to Tony Boucher.
I did. I invited her to come on today. She said she was unable to come on, and after we play the video, we could talk a little bit more about it because there's a couple things worth pointing out in it. I also spoke with Gail Lavaelle, who's a state rep from Wilton, who was among some of the legislators who had met with some of these parents about that. And so it's an interesting thing, and since we did this interview on Tuesday, was it right, or Wednesday, Sunday this week? And it's been a long week. I've been doing a little bit more research on this topic, and it's something certainly worth I think pursuing, because it's really too bad how this stigma about marijuana, and it's to be very clear that what the parents want to give their children is an oil-based of cannabis. Right,
they would not be smoking.
They would not be smoking it. Obviously, this is for kids who like are seizures. Some of them could barely communicate, and also it's non-hallucinogenic. It does not get them high. So that's, I think, a very important thing to point out, because I think when you think medical marijuana, you think of something that's going to get you stoned, so to speak.
Right. And so we're going to replay that interview right now, and then we'll talk more about it. Live on the HAN Network. And I'm joined now by moms Dana Wright and Joy O'Meara and little Ella. Welcome, you guys.
Hello.
And you guys are here to talk about a very important topic and something that's been a big discussion in Connecticut recently, which is the use of medical marijuana for children and a bill that could make that legal for doctors to prescribe it. Can you talk a little bit, Joy, first, how this became something that you began fighting for?
Absolutely. A few years ago, it was brought to my attention through emails, people that knew about my son Jameson and his seizures and our never-ending effort to find a cure. I thought nothing of it. And then about 2 years ago, right after all of this, I started reading stories, and I started researching the stories. And I started contacting the parents to see if there was truth to all of this. And little by little, I started finding out that these children all across the country were being cured by cannabis, the oil form, not smoking, which people don't always understand. So I started talking to other parents, most recently, to try and form an alliance for Connecticut, see if there's more families out there that need this. And there's a lot of us need it, a lot of us want it, and most people are for this bill to be passed.
And tell us, I know we have some photos of Jameson. He's absolutely adorable.
Can
you tell us about his medical condition and why something like this would be helpful?
Yeah, Jameson was born typical and healthy. Around 18 months old, he had his very first seizure. About a week later, he had another seizure. And about a month later, he was having seizures every day. We took him to some of the best hospitals in the country, Columbia Children's in Boston. We go to Yale. We also went to CCMC. And we've tried about 14 different rounds of medications. Sometimes the medications work fabulous. Other times there's horrible side effects to them. But we don't have seizure control. So he's 6 now. He is severely delayed since this all happened. He did get his speech back, but he doesn't communicate. He wears a helmet for the seizures and his behaviors. He struggles. He struggles every day. The seizures set him back at any given moment. The big ones, you hold your breath.
Right. And when you spoke to Steve Coulter at the Trumbull Times recently, you said, medical marijuana gives you hope. Is that right? I mean, can you explain that and why? Just because, and is it because of the other parents you've talked to that have been able to do that?
When you have a child with a severe illness, you're constantly searching and praying, and you live with hope. And then now we have it. We have real hope for a cure, for our children to have a shot just like everyone else's, to be healthy, to thrive, and not just live, but live with a quality of life. And that's really all we want.
Yeah. And Dana, can you tell us what brings you and Ella here? How did you guys get involved in this push for medical marijuana use?
It's very similar to, I was listening to Joy's story, and it was very similar to mine. I used to be skeptical about having that option until I had friends who moved away to Colorado to where it was legal, and they would send back videos of their daughter before they tried the treatment and after, and it was amazing the difference. She was able to play outside where before she was kept inside and away from the sun. She's able to speak small words where before she was nonverbal. So the more information that came in, the more I was, starting to really buy into it and believe it. And the more that I see, I'm convinced that it's gonna work for the majority of the kids that could use it.
Now, I know, Dana, you spoke to the Wilton Bulletin, actually, which is another one of our papers, and you talked about some of the medications that Ella's already on and how this could actually be, less harmful in some ways.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
She's on 3 different medications currently and a special diet called the ketogenic diet. Though we have relatively good seizure control right now, that's not always going to be the case. And in fact, the doctor's already talking about what the next medication will be. And that's what scares me, and that's what's driving us to support this. The medications that she's on to control her seizures and to stop her seizures are in the same class called benzodiazepines. They're extremely addictive, and the side effects are, they range from cognitive delay to actually affecting the liver and kidneys and pancreas. And we haven't seen that in children that use medical marijuana to control their seizures.
Right. And now, Josh, I just want to bring you on because this is something we've talked about before on Behind the News,
Right,
I
we
believe.
have.
And it's something, that we've talked about. There's some detractors, which I'm sure you guys have seen and you probably have your own opinion on. But Josh, is there anything you want to add?
Right.
to
Well,
the
I
discussion?
know that you sat down with at least 3 Republican legislators who all represent Wilton and the New Canaan area, who I know quite well. Tony Boucher, who's a state senator for a big area. Tom O'Day, who's from New Canaan, represents part of Wilton, and Gail LaValle, who is also from Wilton. As I'm sure, Tony Boucher has been a long opponent of any sort of marijuana, and I think is trapped somewhere in the 50s with, talking about it being a gateway drug and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And obviously doesn't understand the science. How does it feel, though, to be up against someone, and she's a rather powerful Republican legislator
She is.
in this state,
Yeah.
and And she just, and I, frankly, she's completely wrong about this.
She's completely wrong.
And so,
Yeah.
how does it feel to be up against like a stone wall of a thinking human being?
She's difficult. We did speak. In fact, the constituents that were there gave us a round of applause, and she was stone cold. She had no emotion when we spoke. I brought a poster of the 4 children that represent our page and their faces so that she could see them. I gave a heartfelt speech about my own son and the fear that if this bill waits another year, one of our kids might not make that year. That was the first time I've ever spoken publicly in my life. I was terrified. I was trembling. I didn't look at my notes. I was a wreck. And she just stared blankly at me as everyone clapped, and she just stared, and I couldn't understand how she'd be so cold, but she also tried to make me look bad. She brought up the fact they kind of tried to pounce on me that they don't want children smoking marijuana. And when I disagreed, they disagreed back. And of course, they were up on stage and I was just speaking. But this is not for children to smoke marijuana. This is an oil form.
Does it get the kids high?
Like
smoking a joint?
Our children are high on the medications they're on right now.
Which are
This
actually
will not get
which are
them high.
actually addictive. Smoking regular marijuana.
Yeah.
The studies show is not an actual addictive drug.
Yeah.
But the barbiturates, is that the type of
Yes.
drugs that they now you can only take in Connecticut are addictive.
Yes.
And we've seen this this growing epidemic of those are the types of drugs that lead to heroin addiction and all these sorts of terrible things.
It's not a gateway drug.
Right. Alcohol's a gateway drug. Anything can be a gateway drug, and alcohol's legal, and alcohol kills a lot more people than marijuana does every day, every year. But so how does it feel, though, because you're going up against like a professional politician who knows how to spin and everything, and you're there fighting for your child's life.
Yeah.
Well, this, stone-faced woman, as you describe her, only cares about, I don't know what constituency she's fighting for. It's obviously not.
I don't know.
And she's not alone. I've heard this come up with other, it seems to be Republican legislators as well. So I'm wondering, what is the arguments that you've heard from them against this? What have you guys heard is the main thing?
It's almost insulting to our sensibilities, some of the things that they come up with.
We do have an answer for most, though.
Yeah.
I will say.
Oh, that's good.
We do.
Give us some examples.
Yeah.
One is we're opening up the possibility for kids to take this to school and sell it to other children. Now,
my son could communicate to other children to be selling drugs. I don't think I'd be having this conversation right now.
no, and I
He
mean,
can't even
honestly,
communicate, so.
honestly, what I have to take to Ella's school to stop seizures is far more harmful than any case of marijuana use I've heard of.
It's not. It's an oil. It's just like another medication that she's using her ability to fight us. We are against drugs.
Right.
We are completely against drug use. This is a different topic. So when she fights drugs, we are with her on it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
But this
is really, I mean, technically it's a natural, like,
It's a plant.
It's a plant. It's an herbal, way. And there's a lot of different herbal oils that, you can buy on the countertop. You can't buy marijuana, for whatever, for several reasons, none of which, make sense. But the state has decriminalized marijuana. So you're allowed to have up to almost an ounce of pot on you, and you get a ticket. But your child who's suffering from seizures and you're fighting for his life, you can't get this non-mind altering drug. You're forced to take a mind altering drug that is addictive.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it and how you continue to, like, what do you have hope? Because I know
we live with hope.
I know that
drives us.
Senator Boucher helped block this from actually
She
even
did.
getting to the floor
She did block
as
it.
a vote, which is very undemocratic. I think too. At least let the legislature vote on it.
Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I belong to a Facebook page that's a political page specific to Wilton.
Mm-hmm.
And I've shared some of our articles, and I shared about our meeting the legislators. And I have not gotten one person totally, completely opposed to this. I had one person say, why don't you try to get a voucher for your children to take, a certain amount of medical marijuana? Because this is not an issue that really affects a lot of people. Right. And that doing drugs is far more harmful, like the kids who are doing drugs. And I said, just because something is getting more attention than something else doesn't mean that this medical marijuana issue should be put on the sidelines. And we're fighting for all the kids in Connecticut, not just ours.
Right. Yeah. Ashley couldn't be here today. She lives in Trumbull with her daughter Reagan. She did do the article with me. I've made it clear, very clear, that if this doesn't work for Jameson and it works for Reagan or any other child in Connecticut, it is 100% worth the fight. It should be worth the fight for everyone. Everyone should want this, because you don't know. You could wake up tomorrow and that child that you love and you care about can have a seizure, and then your whole life is changed. And there are people that have seizures and go on and live normal lives, but not our kids, not my son. And I would love to see him off all these medications. I mean, I don't even know what the possibilities could be for him, but if he can have a slightly typical life, I think that it's worth it,
And have you guys heard from any local politicians who are with you, who support you in this? Or are they kind of hesitant to throw their support behind it?
I was told to go ahead and buy it on the streets, that I wouldn't be arrested.
Which makes no sense, though, right?
It makes no sense, because I wouldn't even know what to do.
Right.
I
You don't know what's in the street.
I said, you know that
You can't trust
an
that,
oil form, and we're trying to make it legal so that we can obtain the correct
It's regulated.
form.
So, sorry to interrupt you, Joy. So, in other states where this drug is legal, do you have to get a prescription from a doctor for the
There's
child?
different states have different
Right.
requirements. So some need both parents and two doctors to sign off on it for the children to obtain it, which for all of us is
Right.
easy to do.
Yeah, of
we all have
course.
tons of doctors our kids see.
But you don't buy it at the at the shelf
You go to the
at
dispensary
Walgreens. Okay.
and you go
All
for
right.
lab work with your children, and then they usually start weaning them off of their seizure medication, and they watch closely and see what happens. And I mean, I've talked to so many families, and it's changing their lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you guys have a Facebook page set up now. What is that Facebook page?
It's called. Sorry,
notes.
I have
Ella
to
has
read
your
it.
notes. She's
Ella's
so good.
playing with my notes here. It's called Medical Cannabis for, as in the letter or number 4, Kids in Connecticut.
Okay. And so that's where you guys are kind of sharing information. And
Yeah.
how many people are now part of that or supporting that?
Just under 1,000.
That's
today. Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
not already at 1,000 as we're
pretty
sitting
close.
here, so
We kept it. It was quiet for a while. We were a little disappointed with the bill, so we were trying to gain some more momentum recently. And then as soon as we start writing into it, we get more likes, we get more comments, and we receive amazing private emails from other parents.
Wow.
So it's mostly been positive.
Overwhelming,
Yes.
positive.
It's just the blockheads in Hartford who, right?
Everyone I talk to, I'm a waitress at Vazzi's in Monroe, and when my article went out, so many of my customers had no idea what I deal with, and they were blown away, and they were 100%. What do we need to do? What do we need to sign? What can we do to help you? And I said, I don't know. I'll let you know. I'm not sure yet. But everyone was like, I had no idea, and of course this should get passed. And so we do have faith in our governor. I think this should be a top priority. I think it will be when enough people realize that their voice matters, and all children should matter. So,
and I
even
think
if it
you need to
helps-
give us parents more power
Yes.
to advocate for something that could work, that isn't in a bottle necessarily, in a pill bottle.
I think parents and doctors should decide what
Yeah.
medication.
And what's really amazing is these are Tony Boucher is against the Common Core thing, and not to get into an education thing, but she says that parents should have the rights to decide how their kids are educated. Shouldn't parents have the rights to decide how
Yeah.
their children are cared for medically?
Absolutely.
Right. And so now you have to
Absolutely.
wait until probably next spring before this would ever really, June, the legislature,
Yeah.
till the next legislative session ends, because we know in Hartford they never get anything done at the beginning of the session. They wait till the end to pass all their bills. So you have a year-long wait just for a chance of this to happen again. What are you going to do between now and then?
We're educating every step we get. We're meeting new people. The more it's publicized, the more people understand it. And every person, not government related, wants it,
Right.
understands it. What can we do? Make a phone call. Call your governor. Put a call in. Use our names if you want to. Say, this is what you need. You know us. You want this. You want it passed. And there have been other states that have done special sessions in emergencies to pass it.
Really?
It's doable.
All right.
It
Well,
is.
Because I will tell you, in an emergency situation, nobody knows how to properly care for our children as much as parents like Joy and I do. I mean, there's been times where EMT has said, I want to hire you because I've had to
Wow.
take over.
You guys become experts at your
Yeah.
child's medical, of course. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
so
feel like
know
you should
best.
have an MD on you, Joy.
jeez.
Well, Joy and Dana, I mean, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us about this.
you.
I really hope that people check out the Facebook page and follow this and, keep up with it. Ella, you've been such a good girl. Thanks for coming on. All right, guys. Well, we're going to take a break and we'll be back with more coffee break after this. All right, we're back live in our Shelton studio on this Friday for Behind the News. You just saw an interview that we recorded on Wednesday with some local mothers who are fighting for the right to be able to give their children medical marijuana for very serious seizure issues.
Yes, and as we talked on there, they have. Well, there's a lot of more vocal opposition to this than there is a vocal group of people in Hartford, particularly politicians, who are proponents of this. And I think that's what this bill really needs, Kate. The FDA this week approved the use of OxyContin for children, but which can, as we know, is how often have we reported on the heroin epidemic going on, and most of these people who started, adults and children, who started using things such as OxyContin for pain and then become addicted to it, and that leads to heroin. And these kids are already taking pills and medication that makes them high and is addictive. So, and there's this stigma about addiction, I think, particularly in the suburbs, that if your kid smokes pot, he could grow up to become a drug addict.
Right.
But why not try something different? These drugs aren't working for particularly for Joy's son, as we saw.
And as they say, I mean, Ella and Jameson, they say our kids are high all the time. They're on all these very powerful medications. It would be great to try something. There's been really great results in states like Colorado where children have been able to be prescribed medical marijuana. So it's really just having that option there. And, there's been a lot of positive response on social media to
There
that
really has
interview, which has been really great. And it's just good to get that conversation going.
Yeah. So what I did after that interview on Wednesday when I got home that night is I wrote emails to my state legislators, to my state senator, Carla Leone in Stamford, and I tried to write to my state representative, Representative Adams, but the website did not work. Then that's the only way to reach him. I kept trying to send it, and of course it timed out. So I can, but I would urge anyone, you could just Google, find my Connecticut state legislator. And so we need someone to speak up for these poor kids and to get Hartford back on track and just to, help them,
Right.
I think.
I agree. All right, Josh. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we still have the top stories to talk about this week.
Healthy, confident smiles begin at Stratford Orthodontics. Conveniently located on Main Street, we are Stratford's hometown orthodontist. We offer the latest in orthodontic technology, including Damon braces and Invisalign. We always accept new patients. Call today to schedule a complimentary consultation. 203-375-8332. Stratford Orthodontics, 2499 Main Street, Stratford. 203-375-8332. And online at stratfordsmile.com.
Spring is finally in the air and our favorite season is upon us. The dock shop is all geared up with a great selection of fishing tackle, custom fishing rods, and all the latest accessories to replenish your tackle box. The dock shop has also just brought out the newest spring fashion apparel from Montauk Tackle, Altered Latitudes, Kaylee Smith, and Margaritaville Apparel. Need some new foul weather gear for those chilly spring mornings? The dock shop is loaded up with Grundens and Stormer in a variety of styles and sizes. Ladies, we've got you covered as well with spring apparel and the newest designs of coastal jewelry, bags, and accessories. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, Connecticut. Visit us at dockshop.com.
When you experience a sports injury, you want to get better and fast. Coastal Ortho Express gives you direct access to orthopedic care quickly. Their physicians are fellowship trained in sports medicine at world-class universities and are also team doctors for area football teams. For specialized personal care of sports injuries, go to Coastal Ortho Express. Open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building, 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or coastalorthoexpress.com. Coastal Orthopedics, keeping you on the move.
August means tennis in Connecticut, and the top players are gonna be here. Be there as some of the world's best women compete for the title at the Connecticut Open presented by United Technologies. And the boys are back for the Men's Legends event presented by PowerShares Series with John McEnroe, James Blake, and more. Experience a variety of food trucks, hands-on activities, live music, and so much more for the kids and family. It all adds up to one legendary week. August 21st through the 29th at the Connecticut Tennis Center in New Haven. Get your tickets at ctopen.org.
You're watching and listening to the HAN Network.
We're back with your coffee break on this rainy Friday. I'm Kate Czaplinski here with Josh Fisher.
This isn't coffee break.
Did I say coffee break?
Yes.
Gosh darn it. Behind the news is what I meant.
Yes.
And I was all ready to say it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It's all right.
I say coffee break more than I say behind the
No,
news.
that's- well,
because
that's
coffee
true.
break airs every weekday
At 11.
at 11, and behind the news is just on Fridays.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so Josh, we're taking a look at some of our top stories this week. What is our top story?
Our top story was one done by Eric Gendron, who's directing today, and it was that Harry Connick's daughter got arrested for a charge. Sorry, but like when you get a ticket, when you get pulled over for a speeding ticket, you're actually arrested for yes. So I understand
Issued a misdemeanor summons.
A misdemeanor
is
summons,
what they
right?
say. Yes.
Which is also being arrested. You don't
Right.
always
I
get
know.
put in handcuffs when you're arrested. So for having an underage drinking party at her house, she's 18 years old, and of course, that Harry Connick is a rather well-known singer, lives in New Canaan, and that I'm sure helped draw all those hits over there that Eric garnered.
It got picked up by a lot of national media.
It really
too.
did. It really
and she's
did.
actually 19 years old.
Oh, she's
just to
19.
clarify.
Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
Thank you. I have way too many windows open up on my computer. There it is. Okay. But in some kind of sweeter news, Kate, this week, the Stratford Star reported that the school named for Vicky Soto, who was one of the teachers killed in the Sandy Hook massacre a few years ago. They're renaming a school in your hometown of Stratford.
Yes.
And you went to high school, or you were the same age. You guys
we're
went
the
to
same
different
age.
schools.
Yeah, we're the same age. We went to different schools. We have a lot of mutual friends in common. And everyone who knew Vicky just said she was the sweetest person with this incredible smile. And she died protecting her kids. But so it's really nice honor. It used to be the Honey Spot House, and now it's the Victoria Soto School.
So that's
it's a great legacy.
And that officially opens a week from today, next Friday.
Yep.
We know Melvin Mason will certainly be
Yep, a
there and
ceremony,
on
yep.
that. So
There'll
that was
be
good.
more.
What else was interesting this week, Kate?
Well, some Yankees surprised the staff at the Prospector Theater this week as part of their Hope Week. Just taking a look at the story right
Yeah,
here.
it's
They
pretty
had an
exciting.
unannounced visit from manager Joe Girardi, general manager Brian Cashman, and several players. So very exciting.
Yeah, Tim Murphy had a nice story on that, and that's cool. And the Prospector is a cool little theater. that opened up, I think it was last year, right, over there on Prospect Street. It was the movie theater in Ridgefield many years ago. Then it became a bank.
Playhouse.
Yeah, it became a bank, and but now it's run by a lot of people with developmental disabilities
yes.
and everything. So it's just this cool nonprofit that's opened up and has it's one of those positive stories that's fun for us to cover.
Yeah, and it's been getting a lot of attention. The Prospector,
it's featured on NBC Nightly News,
which is just great.
Yeah, so that's definitely cool. And who doesn't like a bunch of Yankees?
And
even a Red Sox fan would probably think it was cool.
Right, and a few years ago when I was in Ridgefield, they were talking about tearing that whole building down, and a lot of people were upset about it. And so, what a great use it turned into.
It really is.
Very good news there. And also, which I mentioned on Coffee Break, this interesting email from New Canaan First Selectman Rob Malazzi. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Josh?
Not really.
He said that it was an email apologizing for not getting in touch with the press or the public in a timely manner. And he said it's all due to one resident that he did not identify. What he basically described as harassing, town employees.
Well, that resident he's talking about is Mike Nowacki, who's running against him for first selectman as an independent. And Mike Nowacki's completely off his rocker and is like a wackadoo if you've ever met one. And he's sued me a few times too. By the way, he's sued our company a number of times. And he is just wastes everybody's time and world. He's a conspiracy theorist. Somehow he's able to get the signatures this year to run for office. There's no Democrat charging Malazzi, who's a Republican. I've had to deal with Mike Nowacki for a long time when I was the editor both of our Darien paper and of our New Canaan paper. Now poor Greg Riley has to deal with him, who replaced me down in New Canaan. And he's more than a full-time job just dealing with him. He's been banned from various buildings and places in New Canaan, including Town Hall. This is a guy who will sit around and send dozens and dozens of emails, and often not threatening physical harm, but threatening that he's going to take you down and he's going to sue you and all these sorts of things. And now, granted, a stop clock is right twice a day, so Mike Nowacki's not always wrong about some of these things, but he has a terrible way that he brings it across, and he's really been terrorizing the town of New Canaan for years now. And so I still don't think that Mr. Malazzi, the first selectman in New Canaan, certainly deserves to not spend all his time dealing with one person.
Right.
When you deal with the media and the press, you're actually then reaching out to thousands of people. And New Canaan has a lot of media covered. There's 2 newspapers in that town. There's a couple of websites that cover that town. There's a lot going on. So you can reach a lot more people by talking with the media. And it's also weird since he's then blaming this guy who's running against him for office, the top office. And so that adds it all kind of,
a different layer to it.
A different layer. But, Mike Nowacki is, and he certainly has his right to run. And I think it's certainly, from a news standpoint, it's an interesting type of thing.
Right.
I'm also glad I'm no longer editor of the New Canaan Advertiser to deal with this. So, but we also have one of our most popular stories this week, which was it ended up being a rather sad story. We didn't know it at the time, but we used the HAN network drone. Eric, if we could throw that video up there of this accident on Route 8.
Yeah.
Over just down the street from our office. Route 8 runs behind our office building here on Bridgeport Avenue, and this was near exit 12. A 6-year-old child was ejected from one of the cars involved in this accident and died
Naya
later.
Marcano of Ansonia. Very sad. But Josh, I know you and Marty went out with the drone kind of and trying to find a spot to just, because it was huge. I mean,
we were standing on that
traffic
bridge
was, snarled for a long time.
It was certainly an interesting thing to do. It was the first time we were able to use the drone to cover breaking news like this, and it gave a nice perspective of what the scene was like and how it looked there from a distance. We also got some people questioning it and wondering if that's something that we should be doing. Was it dangerous? All legitimate questions, but Marty, who was piloting the drone, made sure that it did not get too close to the action. It never went above 170 feet. It never went after it took off. It never got within 150 feet of the accident and never got directly over on top of it also. So it stayed away, but gave us a good perspective of it. And I think it's kind of one of the neat tools that we're using now. We picked that up at Milford Photo, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And Aaron Berkowitz of the Shelton Herald also, he was out there.
Oh yeah,
on the scene
he went
as
out
well.
there, and actually you could see his car at one point in
the
the video driving
right.
by, because he went that Marty and I went the back roads, and we found a nice spot to park where we could then fly the drone over to get it. And Aaron Berkowitz, who we had on Behind the News last week, drove straight through there and was able to pull his car over and take some pictures too. So, and of course it ended up being a very sad story. And also another lesson, I know that Aaron's working on a story this week about child restraints for cars and keeping your kids safe, because that poor family this week.
Yeah, very terrible story. What else is popping out to you, Josh, on this week's top stories?
Well, we had a couple obituaries here that got a lot of views. One was for Ted McAndrew, who was the longtime band director at Trumbull High School, and then also Lawrence Cochran II, who was he founded Active Air Solutions and graduated from Darien High School in '82. So those were things that certainly drew a lot of attention. They both seemed like rather. I mean, I don't know if you ever dealt with Ted McAndrew when you were the Trumbull Times editor.
I
but
didn't, no.
He seemed rather popular with the band.
No,
and
I think he was already retired by the time.
But I believe that
Trumbull.
Paul Silverfarb, our former colleague who was in the band at Trumbull High School, worked with. I think I saw him post that on Facebook. So, and what else, Kate?
Well, talk of a marijuana store in New Canaan. I haven't had a chance to
Holy
read
smokes.
this Michael Katarivas story yet, but interesting.
It is, and that's something that a lot of the towns, and I think New Canaan was one of them too, set up these moratoriums that would not allow medical marijuana stores to come in once the state first approved medical marijuana. But there's more and more people are making proposals for this, and this is kind of one of those little it's like a Katarivas fun Saturday story that is a little tongue-in-cheek, so to speak.
Right. And the final top story, which is something that kind of came up when we were on air last week, was this untimely death investigation in Shelton. A 46-year-old Shelton man's death last Friday morning launched a combined investigation with city and state police departments. So just, I know the Shelton Herald was following that story.
Yes, so busy week certainly for our young new Shelton Herald editor, who, along with Robin Wallach, who does a lot of assistance there with Aaron Berkowitz and works with him to get this stuff covered. So, it's August can often be quiet and slow, but this week at Curse Acorn at the HAN Network, it was not.
No, it definitely wasn't, Josh. Well, I think that's going to do it for this Behind the News.
All right. Well, thanks, Kate, and Eric, and AJ, and our Devin, our intern, who's doing a great job back there. Keep making sure AJ is staying very focused. So we're going to wrap up right now. Radio A&L is coming up, of course, audio only, hence radio in the title, is coming up at 1 o'clock. You can hear that on HANradio.com or any of our HAN Network websites.
I should say they're going to be talking about Straight Outta Compton and movies that deal with race relations.
Oh, that could be a very interesting topic with Steve and Sally and the Real Dad. So we will be back next week. Kate, get your week started on Monday at 11 a.m. with Coffee Break. We have some exciting announcements,
HAN
too,
Network,
for our
the
company
leader
next
in
week
local
involving
news,
the Fairfield
sports,
County
arts,
Interscholastic
and
Athletic Conference. We'll
entertainment
see you.
in southwestern Connecticut.